Hello everyone. I had a bit of technical difficulties there. I didn't know how to put myself on the screen. As you can see, you have me today. Joe couldn't make it today, but we will not be alone. We have Noma joining from the event side to talk about like Redacted and Hackbox. And then later, we're going to be joined by AVB to talk about chain abstraction and chain signatures. But first, I want to talk a little bit about what news we've had in the ecosystem over like the last 1.5 weeks. Hopefully you can see my screen now. Oh, I managed to do it. Okay. So this week we had, let me zoom in a little bit. Well, last week we had chain signatures launch live to mainnet, which is just amazing. We've been waiting for this for a while, but it's great to see it finally come together. And this is what we're going to be talking about later. This is enabling you to sign transactions on basically every chain, unlocking DeFi everywhere, all from your Near account. We also had the release of Near Core 2.0, which this quite surprised me. I didn't see it much anywhere, but this is introducing like stateless validation and congestion changes just to make the protocol more efficient. Stateless validation is a huge thing. And then our third item on the news reel was the release of source scan to cargo near. And if you've not heard of source scan before, basically what it's doing is enabling you to verify your smart contract when you deploy it. So before, you would have to like verify a contract is what it says it is. Like you'll have a GitHub with all the code in, and then you'll have the deployment of the code, but you need to actually make sure that one matches the other, right? So the idea is that before you had to like compile it in the same environment and then check the hash that they match. But now Cargo Near and Source Scan is just automating this all for you, which is amazing, and I'm glad to see it finally come through. Okay, so if you're not subscribed to the newsletter, why aren't you? Okay, I'm going to bring Noma up now to talk about Redacted and events. If you're ready, let me see if I think I've done it. Hey, good to see you.
Hi,
Been a
everyone.
while.
See you, Owen. Yeah, I probably have a new look with the colored hair, but
Looking
yeah,
good.
I'm excited to talk about Redacted, what we have coming from the events side. The events committee was recently stood up to streamline events in the ecosystem. Maria probably might have spoke on that in previous DevHub lives, but yeah, I would love to talk about Redacted and actually share some special initiatives that we have coming up. So, as most of you might know, NAIR's flagship event, NAIRCon, is going to be taking a new shape, new look this year. It'll be called the Redacted Hackathon, focusing on AI and Web3, the intersection of those two, as well as chain signatures, chain abstraction, and so on. And the Redacted Hackathon, as previous near hackathons have been, is mostly online. But to support the IRL component, because we do have interest from a lot of ecosystem teams who are located across the world to host these in person. You can think of them as satellite build stations. So, yeah, Hackbox is going to be supporting these things called redacted city nodes. And yeah, I would love to share more about them if you have any questions. a brief primer.
That sounds awesome. So what can people expect at these like city nodes?
Yeah, so essentially they're going to be like mini hackathon style events. You can expect like mentors to be coming through. You can expect office hours. You can expect some coding incentives within the house itself, within the node itself. You can expect pretty much everything you would find at an in person hackathon, but on a smaller scale. So, what we're actually doing is we have Hackbox, which, if you don't know, is a product that we stood up within DevHub and now is run by the events committee to streamline ecosystem hackathons and empower community led hackathons. And so, what we did was essentially create this toolbox that allows anyone anywhere in the world, as long as they have interest, to host a hackathon in their local area. So, we have everything from sponsorship guides. We also give a little stipend for like events planning and operations. We have everything from like a hacker's marketing guide to engagement strategies to bounty guidelines, just a whole bunch of like primers on how to do a hackathon so you don't have to think about it too much. And so we found that teams have found it really useful and been able to hit the ground running when it comes to hosting events. And we hope to replicate this playbook again for the city nodes. So you can expect everything that you've seen at a Hackbox hackathon so far, but it'll be in support of the overarching redacted hackathon coming up pretty soon. And the dev post page is actually already live. So quick shout out to that. Like if you haven't registered there, please do.
Awesome. I think I've never seen like a pre-hackathon for a hackathon before, so it's like a really cool idea. So, are the length of these city nodes like 2-3 days, or are they over a longer period during the like online hack, or
Yeah,
is that
so
up to the city?
yeah, it's pretty much up to the people stewarding the hackathon in these respective cities. So we're kind of giving them enough agency to think about what would be best suited for their communities, what length of hackathon or what length of build station we could call them is most suitable. So the Redacted Hackathon is officially running from, I believe, September 5th to October 25th is the last day to submit. So anywhere within that time, we are allowing folks to host city nodes.
Is it October or November? Is it that it ends? I can't remember. Redacted.
I mean, I have it right here. The submissions will close October 25th. And then,
October
yeah,
25th. I thought you
yeah.
said 5th for some reason.
No, October 25th. No.
Do you have any like cities in the pipeline right now, or these sort of being stood up as we speak?
Yes, we actually do. So we have some like high potential targets. We actually gave priority applications to our Hackbox alumna. So we've managed to host up to 12 events now under Hackbox, and these have been from like Nigeria to Mexico City to London to, a whole bunch of places all over the world. I think we pretty much have like every continent covered. And we are giving priority applications for the city nodes to these Hackbox alumna. We saw like a lot of success in Toronto, for example, which was hosted by the Near Toronto team. So we're actually doubling down on this success that we've seen in the past by allowing these teams to host their city nodes. And yeah, we also are targeting like ecosystem teams like Calimero, like Jutsu, that's based in the West Coast in the United States, like the New York hub under, I believe, Joanna and Cameron are stewarding a community in New York. So yeah, we have these ecosystem teams alongside our like Hackbox alumna that's going to be providing a lot of coverage, honestly, across the entire world.
I don't know about you, but I really have the redacted fever already. Like the in real like the in-person event is not until November, but I'm so excited already. I might just have to like take a trip to one of these cities. Maybe if they're at different times, maybe you can go around the world and do them all.
Exactly, like a little like redacted tour before everyone arrives in Bangkok. That'll be pretty cool. I plan to actually go to the one that's like close to me. So I'm based on the East Coast, and I plan to maybe hit up what they're doing in Toronto as well as like New York. I
Nice.
think would be interesting. Just to like have that like hands-on support for hackers and also preach the Hackbox gospel because after after the redacted city nodes and the redacted event itself, we will still be opening up our pipeline for more applications. So yeah, I'm honestly just really excited to see what comes out of these city nodes because I know with like a big online hackathon, that IRL component is always really valuable.
And I think that's one of the things we miss in Web3 the most, like talking to people in person and interacting, because most of them are, most of us are like just working online and see each other like maybe tops 5 times a year in person. So it's really good to add that extra component. And I feel like you're more productive. I know I am, but I'm more productive when I'm around people and around people of the same mindset. So I think this is a great way to encourage builders and like empower them to build even better projects at Redacted.
Absolutely. And it's like you can never underestimate like the type of productivity that comes out of or like the cross pollination. I think when like people are in the same room and they can bounce ideas off each other and they can like help each other troubleshoot. So of course there's going to be mentors there both in person, and then there will be of course like online coverage from like the DevHub like Telegram channel where folks can come in and like ask questions, or the dedicated redacted hackathon channel itself. And then various ecosystem teams like Jutsu that'll be offering up their time to provide support. But I think that one thing I really love about attending like in-person events and like being around hackers is actually seeing hackers help each other on various fronts. So whether it's like moral support or like technical support, it's always really nice to see.
I think one of the best support is the coffee support.
Oh, there will be plenty of that at the city node. So do not fret. You will definitely have your coffee, your snacks to help you to fuel you through the duration of the event. So yeah.
Awesome. I just saw a comment from AVB. Yes, you did give me pizza at midnight in NearCon, and that actually saved my life. I think, unfortunately, it was a mushroom pizza, though. So I
Oh,
picked every little mushroom off it. I'm not a big mushroom person. Is there anything you're looking forward to in particular about Redacted, or any sort of projects you'd like to see come out of Redacted?
I think we've been pushing the AI Web3 narrative quite a bit. And I think that's probably what I'm most excited to see is like some practical applications of the theoretical discussions that have been taking place so far. I think personally, it's very exciting for me to see these two domains merge and like think about how decentralizing AI can actually be sort of put into practice and like brought into reality, into the real world, because I feel like these systems kind of need each other. And it'll be really cool to see like what comes from the redacted bounties, like how they inspire people. I believe the bounties are already listed. We have some details on the dev post page going already. And there's actually a ton of different categories. So the bounties took a different form this time. I think having different tracks, sponsored tracks, is really interesting because people feel sort of less pigeonholed into building under specific prompts, and they can utilize different technologies in different ways. And so I think we're going to see a lot more creativity actually come from this redacted hackathon. It's sort of like chain agnostic as well. So yeah, I'm just really excited to see how like it opens up people's minds as to like what they can build, and also fosters more like cross ecosystem collaboration is something I'm really excited about as well.
100%. Yeah, I'm really excited to see not just one thing. Like I'm excited to see chain abstraction come into play and AI come into play. But like
Absolutely.
you said, it's open to anything. So I'm just excited to see what wild stuff people come up with, like things I
Yeah,
could never even think of. I'm more I'm really an ideas man, and I just love the crazy ideas, maybe even more than the implementation itself.
right.
So
Absolutely.
how can people see whether there's going to be one of these city nodes nearby them, and like how can people get involved in this?
Yeah, so that's something that you have to look forward to. So we're currently in the intake phase actually for the city nodes. So we started passing around the intake form and we're registering interest. We're figuring out what some of these teams might have already planned for September to October around the time of the Redacted Hackathon. And we're trying to integrate our plans with theirs. So you'll see a bunch of different events being announced over the next couple of weeks. I think we can even come up with something really interesting, like a interactive map, maybe that like shows people where in the world a city node is taking place and for how long, and who's going to be there. I think that might be a cool project that we can work on like in the next couple of days with help from some technical talent. So yeah, just expect to see some announcements coming from the Near DevHub account on Twitter, as well as the DevHub Hacks group in Telegram. And yeah, we're going to be sort of cross posting across these different channels. So I think I would say follow the Near DevHub X account. Sorry, I keep calling it Twitter when I should be saying
I
X.
call it Twitter. I say Twitter with chest. I don't say X on purpose.
Exactly. Yeah. I think we're on the same page there. But yeah, make sure you follow the Near DevHub account because I think that will be like your single source of truth for everything concerning like redacted. And then the Telegram channels will be sort of supplemental and we'll be posting more in real time on those channels. So yeah, just I don't mean to be a hashtag like coming soon, but yeah, like coming soon, you will see a couple things
You've
concerning.
always got to leave a bit of excitement for people.
And yeah, I mean, we have a couple more exciting things, honestly. Like, I would have loved to talk more about what we have coming in terms of supporting hackers to get to the IRL event. But just know that there are, some interesting things we're cooking up on our end to really help to like facilitate the travel aspect for our standout builders at these city nodes and even just like in general participating in Redacted. So yeah, just hashtag coming soon. Keep an eye out.
I've already had a few people messaging me about trying to make it to Redacted. So you can tell it's not just us that are excited about it, the whole community. And even those outside of NEAR are really excited for this event and the
Yeah,
hackathon.
I can't wait to
Okay,
like, see the culmination of everything in Bangkok. Like, I think that's going to be absolutely insane.
awesome. Okay, anything else to share or anything else you want to get out there
I
before?
think that's about it from me. But of course, like feel free to ask me questions in Telegram or if anyone has any questions in the chat, also feel free to drop, and I'll be able to respond there. But I think we've covered everything so far. And yeah, thanks so much for having us. And yeah, like I said, keep an eye out on the DevHub account for the announcements that we'll be passing in the coming days and weeks.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing those announcements. Really excited to see what comes next.
Thank you guys. And yeah,
See you later.
see you soon.
Awesome, awesome. I get more excited about Redacted day by day. It's a real shame that I live in the middle of absolute nowhere, so I might not be able to make it to one of these city nodes. But like I said, I'm so excited. I might just fly out to one of them. Okay, so we've heard from events. Now we're going to have the one, the only AVB come and join us. Just a little bit of context before we have him on. I messaged him the other day. He was asking about chain abstraction in some chat. And I said, "What do you want to know?" We've spoken before, so I gave him a DM. "What do you want to know about chain abstraction?" And his reply was, and I quote, "What the fuck is it? Lol." So I thought we could have him on and discuss what the fuck it is. Let's have him on. Hello, AVB. Abstracted Virtual Beast. Is that what it stands for?
I was told so, yeah, by someone, yeah.
So how are you doing? How are you getting on?
Good. I'm so excited to be joining you today. I thought I was going to be joining you and Joe, so I'm like managing my expectations here. You're great, but Joe is amazing.
Ah, cheers. Yeah, you're just stuck with me today. Sorry for that.
All good, all good.
So you've been to a few hackathons, right? And you've been to a few hackathons since chain abstraction and chain signatures came out. So what do you know about it, and what are your thoughts, and what were you building with chain signatures at these hackathons?
Yeah, so I guess a bit of context. You did quote me correctly. I cannot, take out that very accurate quote. I guess the conspiracy theory I'm cooking in my head, and I'm cooking many of these simultaneously, is near it's not what most people think about. There was a banger tweet from Brussels. When you look at data availability, Nuffle is doing something else like DA++, and there's going to be like shared state, and that's going to be a different shroom trip. But even when you look at chain abstraction, it's super hot now. Everyone is talking about it. There's many players that come together to make it happen. But my perception is that Near is doing something that is slightly different, or there's like an edge to it. I don't want to say supremacy; that word is not very popular these days. But so if we go back to ETH Denver, the first abstraction day, I have a T-shirt that I still hold sometimes. It's a bit too tight for me. I think I've gained weight, but I still hold it and I analyze it, and it's a cake protocol. And the cake protocol helps me understand where all these different players fit in. And I had a great conversation with the SATA guys. And I guess where I am at now, and I'd love to get your thoughts, is I can roughly understand how the cake protocol makes it work. Have an intent here, somebody else solves it, somebody else relays back the information. What I'm most curious about now is with chain signature specifically, is the ability to control things elsewhere. So you're not just shouting at the wind and hoping somebody solves it, which I guess you could abstract anywhere if you have the right solvers, etc. Is I guess more of that vertical integration. If I were to think of an application today, is it different that I just have intent and fuck it, somebody else does it? Or how should I think about my near smart contract owning and controlling things elsewhere? Are we starting to look at a conglomerate of smart contracts? So maybe the near one controls a smart contract on EVMs, and those smart contracts in turn engage with other things. Like basically my general reaction, and we can tap into what I tried to do for the hackathons and some of the conversations I had in Korea before I rage quit. The more specific you get with a product or IT implementation, the more known unknowns. These are new things that we're tackling and building as we go. So yeah, I'd love to pick your brain publicly. Let's see how that goes.
So I think to start off with, like you say, there's many teams trying to and actively tackling this idea of chain abstraction. But I think in the past, a lot of this in we can sort of say chain abstraction and interoperability is they're along the same sort of lines. But how this has been tackled before is through bridges and message passing protocols, right? And these are very let's say, chain specific, if that's the word, opposite to uh, chain agnostic. So you have to like integrate a certain protocol, right? And it has to be uptaken. Like with a bridge, say you have 3 protocols, you're going to have a connection between all of them. So you're going to have like 3 bridges. But the idea with chain abstraction is that it's with chain signatures, sorry, is that it's chain agnostic, meaning that any chain is accepted without it needing to be implemented, really. So if a new EVM, um, like a new roll up or whatever layer 2 comes into play, then you can automatically sign transactions on it through chain signatures. And when I say any chain, we sort of just say any chain, but at the moment it's chains that are like EDSA, ED, yeah, EDSCA, I can't remember, but it's like the elliptic curve that um Bitcoin and EVM. So accepting EVM pretty much covers like 90% of things at the moment, but you can't currently sign transactions for Solana because that uses a different curve. But I think that's coming like Q4. So I think this is like how it's being tackled before and how it's being tackled now with chain signatures and how it's like different. But I think the way to think about things when it comes to chain abstraction and chain signatures is there's no right way. Like there's many ways to build an application, right? There's so many different ways to build an application with chain signatures and chain abstraction. It becomes even more complicated, I think. And you just have to sort of build a solution that sounds right and you can iterate from there is my own thought process. So for example, you were saying, hey, could the logic be on near or could the logic be on Ethereum, right? Because you can have a smart contract that controls, hey, I'm going to make a signature now to Ethereum and the logic is on the near side. Or you can say, hey, I'm going to just put out a signature and then when that arrives on Ethereum, then I'm going to do something from there. So I think is that what you were saying?
Yes, sort of.
So I think to tackle that point, in general, we like to keep most of the logic on near because, like, say you're interacting with Ethereum mainnet, then the finality isn't as quick and the gas fees are much more expensive. But if you extract that logic and put it on near, then you inherit near's gas fees and its finality. So, for example, Bitcoin, it might take a matter of minutes for your transaction to be confirmed if you're just sending Bitcoin from one person to another. But if it's happening on near, then you just swap ownership of an account which has access to Bitcoin, and that happens in seconds. Well, like I think it's like what is fine now? It's like 3 seconds, and block time is like 1.3 seconds, and gas is we don't care about gas because it's so low on near, really. But you also have people that
What
are
a whale would
building
say.
stuff. Sorry?
That's what a whale would say.
I think probably one near has covered all my gas fees in my lifetime on near.
You
Maybe
wouldn't
not
believe
that
the
too
number of
optimistic.
degenerate transactions I put through in a day, but
Yeah,
I guess
I don't want to search up your transaction history.
yeah, it's not as bad as my Google search history, but ha ha ha.
Nice one.
I can tell you what we tried to hack, not in one, but in 2 hackathons back to back. And I know everybody watching this is going to be absolutely shocked. We can start the UK riots 2.0 after this, but sorry, I may get arrested. Yeah, we didn't win anything. I had some words, and there were some words given back. We've closed the chapter, we've passed the page, we've learned. So what I tried to do, as you know, I've got some scars, I've got some trauma with governance. I fully adhere with AI coming in to help with governance. So what I wanted to do was have a near, most of the logic being on near, connecting with like an AI input output. We basically cloned, which would they be cloned? It was basically Eugene's repository. There was an indexer that waited for the callback. And then if you think about it from, I guess, like a product perspective, or if you look at the user journey, that's when you can see the value of chain abstraction. So to us, it was really cool to be able to call an LLM from a near smart contract. Then the problem was that maybe the functionality that you want is not a near. So what I wanted to do was, okay, so from near we can call the LLM smart contract and get an output back. And then based on that output, we want to be able to execute governance transactions regardless of where they live. So you could basically have one meta treasury and DAO brain on near that is able to vote on Stargate, on Ethereum, on Base, on Arbitrum, random new L2 launches, and we want to have a stake in the governance of that chain. That one brain could do it. So that would be a way of basically seeing chain signatures triggering governance things elsewhere, which was perhaps an easier way to do it because it's going out. The next level, because I was like, fuck humans, let's just go all in, was to enable anyone from any chain to put money into that treasury. And then the AI itself would decide which tokens to buy to increase the governance. So if the AI wanted to hostile takeover, it could. You just had people buying in from, say, I'm in Base, I put in $100. I'm in Arbitrum, I put in $100. And that definitely gets a little bit trickier because then you need to find a way for the incoming transaction. And that's where I was asking about, okay, so how should we think about it? Like, is there one transaction for the near smart contract here? And when assets come in, how do you relay the information back? How could you differentiate if different users are all interacting with you on the other side? Could you give all of them like their own address and then relay it back to? So things definitely got a little bit complex. For the hackathon, we got extremely lucky and barely got the tutorial running. But it was an interesting case study of, could you have a hedge fund-ish AI driven that can distribute money, collect money, and perform DAO governance operations anywhere.
Yeah, it's a really interesting idea. And this is something, the idea of like a DAO on near and controlling assets or controlling calls on like all chains. This is something we're playing with at DevHub with like examples. So one of our DevRels is building an example to you have this DAO
Which one?
on near Dan Byte. Do you know?
Told Dan?
I'm not sure. I'm yet to meet him in person.
Ukrainian?
Yes.
Bro, he helped me and my team with this idea. I mean, fair enough. If he wants to copy, it's all fun and games. He knows how to do it. We didn't. And we were at the hacker house till like 3 a.m. both nights, just like chugging along. I mean, I don't think he was just
Well,
explaining.
he's taken it further. Well, what he's building is to add to the examples is that you can call like a function on all these layer twos to change, I think, like a parameter. So if you have a contract on like multiple chains or multiple layer twos and you want to like change something at once, you want to change like the fees or some constant in the contract, well, the idea is that you can do this in one call through like a multi-sig or through a DAO. is this maybe this what is what you were trying to build as well, or were you doing it more on the asset side? You're muted, by the way.
Normally, the power of governance is proportional to owning an asset. That's where we're thinking about, the asset being owned by the DAO. But my user journey perhaps was a little bit less technical. It was literally, hey, there's a proposal in Fraxel right now. Should we allocate 500,000 frax to whatever? It could actually be them having a proposal that directly affects us. Hey, we'll put 500,000 towards liquidity on ref. Or it could be, we're going to put 500,000 towards a random ghost chain. We think it's a waste of time. We could actually vote against it. So it was a simpler vote, yes, no, maybe leave a comment. I thought it'd be really interesting to have, I think a snapshot and others. Because if you think of the powers of the LLM, it's really processing a shitload of information. We wanted to look at all the comments, give us sentiment, maybe reply to people individually to give to them information that has probably already been given by others or captured somewhere else. So it's extremely time consuming to do it at a human level, to be replying to each comment and basically spoon feeding things to people. But an AI would be really good at it. So that was I guess, much more public facing side of things. The beauty is that because I don't get too far into the technicals, it's much easier to see that sort of human touch point by touch point journey and what the final outcome is. Like, where does the value come from to the people that use the system or benefit from the system? What happens to me all the time is, and I'm picking up my good old Python. I'm cooking up some mean AI agents to do my shit posting for me. The more technical I get, I don't know. It's like my brain is limited. I mean, I know it's very scattered, but it's like it's limited. And the more technical I get, all the ideas on how to be human and the things that humans want, like, start dissipating, which is very funny because I've got this background. But yeah, so I thought that we got to find that balance between the crazy ideas with like real world implementations, and then try to reverse engineer them into, I guess, templates or potential implementations. Obviously, acknowledging what you've said, which is very true, that you could implement the same thing in 50 different ways. But yeah, that's where I get excited and sometimes frustrated about now.
Yeah. I get that. I feel that as well. I really want to pick on something you were saying before, the idea of you wanted to implement making like depositing into the DAO treasury on like near, I think it was, from any chain. Is that what you were trying to do? Look at.
Yes, I mean, the wording here, technically the treasury can just acknowledge that it owns those assets elsewhere. It doesn't really have to transfer them, and maybe that would tap into a different layer of whatever, solvers or intent or whatever. It was more that sort of like stack of control. Even if I'm selling a service in Near and somebody says, hey, I want to pay you in Polygon, can the Near entity have a Polygon address that is able to receive the payment and acknowledge it, and then trigger a workflow elsewhere?
Yeah, so the receiving is really quite simple. However, the like acknowledging is not, right? Because what you can do is like it's with chain signatures, it's very easy to do something from near onto another chain, but the reverse is not quite as easy. So you can derive like a new public key and a new account on whatever chain you want, like on Polygon, from your DAO or whatever, and then you can have someone deposit into that address from like another Polygon account, and then from there you could even like swap that account for funds on near. So you could do like a a swap for 100 USDC on Polygon for 100 USDC on Near, and that being controlled by like a Near smart contract. This is sort of what like Diffuse is doing, but it's quite difficult to acknowledge that you actually put the money in, like in the smart contract. So you can do that on the front end. You can see that it was AVB who put like the 100 USDC in this Polygon address. However, it's quite difficult to do that in a decentralized and trustless manner in a smart contract. So that's where things like light clients and oracles come in to do this reverse process for us and like verify the state on another chain. And so at the minute we have there's one or like a couple of light clients for Ethereum and the Rainbow Bridge. I'm sure you've probably heard of it or used it. Is using one of those light clients. And then recently, I think it was like yesterday or the day before, the Bitcoin light client came out, which was produced by like Aurora Labs. So it's going to be interesting what Bitcoin use cases come out of that, because it does, whilst you can do a lot with chain signatures, when you have that connection to verify the state on the target chain, it does enable a lot more. So it's going to be interesting.
How would you explain light clients to a 5-year-old? Because I kind of get it, but I also kind of don't.
I don't know too much about light clients. I think it's like, hey, I can't see behind that wall because there is a wall in the way. I'm going to have a light client that looks behind the wall for me and tells me it. But it's not just one person telling me it. It's a smart contract, so we can trust it.
Wow, that's I mean,
Is that good?
You're asking me. But as far as simplicity goes, I mean, you definitely nailed the age range for sure.
But yeah, the idea is that with light clients, you're not supposed to have to trust someone, because like you could just decide to have a method in a near smart contract that says, hey, this is how much Bitcoin is in this address, but you can just pick whatever number you want it to be and submit that. But the idea with light client is that it actually verifies that amount of Bitcoin is in that address.
So you basically get the real chain state on the other side, like it's settled on both sides, like the real one.
But you might be thinking like, why use chain signatures if we have this light client now in place? Because maybe if we have a light client, then we don't need the chain signatures. But it does unlock more than just that. And also, like you'd have to have a light client between every single chain and every single layer 2. But with chain signatures, I suppose you just need the light clients to be attached to Near, and then if you want to go from Polygon to Arbitrum, if there's no light client between them or no bridge or whatever, then you can just do it from Near, like the light clients to Near. And I suppose it goes from like order of n squared light clients to n light clients. But you can still do so much without this verification. It just has to happen. Like you have to verify things for yourself in the front end, and you end up having to click through a few more things to confirm things. So light client's always good.
Interesting. Yeah, the bridge to Bitcoin is gonna be another rabbit hole to go down.
Is there any? Go on.
I just don't understand. So it's like native Bitcoin in Bitcoin chain. I don't fully understand what the Bitcoin is once it's been bridged, but it's also kind of native. Like, is it a near? Is it not a near? Like, I need to, yeah, I need to read. Someone said they're going to send me the documentation this week, so probably wait till I read that before I start asking some stupid questions. But
When you saying bridge, are you meaning like in reference to near?
have you seen the Satoshi bridge?
Is this the one that's just come out?
The Satoshi bridge uses the Light client that has just come out. And then this is the Satoshi protocol. I mean, this is all alpha. None of this has come out. I haven't even seen the documentation. But yeah, there's going to be that interoperability between Bitcoin and Near. And I think they're targeting mostly like the Bitcoin layer twos. But yeah, there's a lot of things that potentially come up there. Like I commented on Elias' tweet, if you could use this Light client bridge, whatever, to have native Bitcoin on Near, if you could then wrap that shit and through chain signatures issue it on EVMs and basically replace wrap BTC, Vadim liked it. So I think that to some extent, in some
You think
way,
it was valid?
there's something there, you know? Probably in his brain, he's like, yeah, sounds about right. But once again, like when somebody tries to implement it, I think we're going to find out a lot more. There's a lot more nuance to it, probably.
Yeah, I think. Well, there's this thing of like, hey, we can have Bitcoin on Ethereum now, or well, you could before, but like a non-wrapped form or whatever. But you, I suppose, can think of it in a more abstract way, in like, hey, these tokens don't belong to any chain because we're not thinking about chains now. Like they live on the chain, don't get me wrong, but like why do you have to think about the chains? Why not just abstract it and like, hey, I have 100 USDC, but in reality it's 100 USDC on Polygon. Sorry, like 12 USDC on Polygon, and then 10 on Ethereum, and then it's like 10 wrapped on Near, but we don't really care where it lives. We just care about that we have that asset. And then maybe we're thinking, hey, but I do care where it lives because I want to use this USDC on this specific chain. Well, why don't we think that we abstract which chain the application is on as well? And you just, when you want to use your USDC, it swaps it for you without you having to think about that. And then we might be thinking, hey, I've got to pay for gas. Well, then you use a gas relayer and it gives you the gas token to pay for that. And you don't have to think about any of this. You just use the application and you have your assets and you don't really care where they live. I think that's the idea of chain abstraction.
I'll get you devil's advocate here. By the way, Vitalik sort of took this position at ETH Global in regards to security and minding where things exist. I think it's a really bold take these days because obviously going against chain abstraction doesn't make any sense. Like you do want to enhance the user experience. But I guess that, and I'm obviously, I've left Vitalik realm. I'm using my own words now. If you were to expand that far enough, it doesn't matter where USDC is, you will inevitably eventually get to the point where the USDC is in your head. It's in your imagination. Like, why does it matter which blockchain it is? It's just all fucking fiat money anyway. So I think that security does matter to some extent. But also, I wonder, because my thesis has always been in the long term is we abstract the chains to enable users to not feel the friction. Like that's a developer problem. That's a startup problem. A chain abstraction doesn't mean that the founders don't think about it. It means that the user doesn't think about it. But the truth is that, okay, users don't worry about it, but we do. A founder starting today should not be thinking, I'm gonna fucking, deploy in 19,000 chains and then abstract it. That's the most retarded thing I've heard in my life. Oh shit, the art word coming back. I think that over time, chain abstraction is going to allow you to be more playful, perhaps more risk tolerant with which environments you deploy in, because you can go for the newer stacks, more performant, etc. Maybe deal with some dependencies, liquidity may be fragmented elsewhere. But I do think that over time, all roads will lead to the best performing stacks and whatever is able to deliver the best. So in that mindset, I wonder if it doesn't matter where USDC lives, where does Circle decide where to issue new USDC? Like up until now, because there were bridges and that's an issue, Circle has issued natively on a bunch of chains. I wonder if chain abstraction in a very counterintuitive way will lead to us saying, well, actually, we don't need native USDC on the next 10 layer ones or twos or threes or whatever, because it's abstracted. It will all still live on Ethereum, even though the core shit is further out. I don't know. I'm trying to reconcile the paradox of abstracting things away from the user doesn't mean that all the friction and all the complexity that we have now goes away. It just means that we talk about it in hush-hush tones while pretending that the front end works and somehow finding users. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think this term, like, hush hush, we don't speak about it. I think it's like, hey, we're developers, we talk about it. Hey, we're users, we don't think about it. Like, as a developer, you still might be thinking where I want to build. Just like you're saying, hey, I want to use this server on Amazon because it gives me the best performance for my use case. But I think it's like in the front end that we don't have to think about it as a user because we don't really care where it is. But then I did see like a tweet the other day. I can't remember where it was. Oh, I think it was one of the guys from Euler or Euler. I can never remember how to say it.
I think you'll love it.
But the founder was saying, I think we should care where it's deployed. And I somewhat agree with that because he was saying like this chain may be more secure than this other chain. But I feel like we have to make the choice for the user, and we have to, as devs, like actors, act wisely and choose the best for the user and not have the user worry about it.
I remember, because you always should ask, what are the security assumptions that we're making? I remember crystal clear, months before Luna and Terra collapsed. There were people on Twitter, they were not popular, but they were openly saying, hey, this is widely unsustainable. The incentives and the rewards that they had to get the 20% had a 3-month timeline, and they kept topping it up, but you could see how it was a ticking bomb and then trying to unwind all those positions. And it was not hard to see, hard to believe, but not hard to see, what was coming up and what happened. I think that we could potentially ask the same thing today. Like, do we foresee a world where Celestia's honeymoon is over, the token collapses in price 90%, someone goes bankrupt, someone dies, whatever? What happens when your main DA layer is gone, or eigenlayer? Is it possible that in 5 years' time, I don't know, the eigenlayer people, we find out we're living in a polycule and someone went on a trip to Mars and never came back? Like, what happens if some of the core infra that we take for granted for now, that we're super horny about, collapses? And I think that's why it sort of matters where you build. I mean, we don't really have to stretch it too far. I was doing the Celestia hackathon a few months ago. I was still in Melbourne, mostly because I was learning about DAs and interoperability, EVM, and there was Caldera, and there were a few other providers that I was really blown away by how easy they make it to deploy your L3 or your L2. I mean, it's easier than ordering on Uber Eats. You sort of choose, which is your security, which is your DA, how do you want to name it, and upload a GIF. It's running. It's already having issues. I think Degen chain has been having some real issues with them. I'm trying to remember. There was somebody else that sort of grew to a certain level of users and whatnot, and now they're dependent on these third-party infra. So yeah, I guess that, not to be a party pooper, but I do think that it matters where you deploy. I'm obviously slightly biased because I'm more familiar with the near stack, and I've seen repeatedly, time over time, that the shit that is revolutionary 7 years in on Ethereum, like account abstraction at a wallet level, we have that at a protocol level. And once again, like, it completely changes it. Like, there is no risk of the wallet provider going bankrupt or getting hacked or whatever, because it's already in the protocol. Like, anyone can develop with that level of functionality. So I don't know. I do wonder how we can abstract securely.
Yeah, I think no, I do agree with you that it matters where you build, but that's for the developer. Like, once again, I think that the user shouldn't have to think about it. Maybe the developer can say, and the company can say, "Hey, ours is safer than this product because of these reasons," right? Because they're on this chain. But the
Oh,
user, when they're
100%.
interacting with it, shouldn't have to care which chain it's on necessarily. And I think maybe how we can get around this issue is like, hey, we rely on this one chain to provide all our services, right? And if this chain goes down or the RPCs start working or whatever, then you're not going to be able to interact with that. But what if you could have like two options? So I deploy my application to 3 layer 2s, and the front end instantly like swaps between them depending on which would be the best to execute the transaction on. Just like you have with RPCs, where this is like what Lava Network is doing, right? It gives you the best RPC and you don't have to think about it. You just plug into the Lava Network and it's like, hey, this is the best RPC for you to use. But I don't know the name of the RPC necessarily.
Would that be similar to like dynamic sharding, and you don't know which shard you're on, but the capacity expands or contracts on demand? I mean, this is what I'm saying. Sure, we can make it work. I'll deploy AVB chain, you deploy Owen chain, we get a couple more randoms just to spice it up. And we can shuffle shit back and forth until one of us gets bored and there's another dead chain. I think it works, and it will continue to work while we keep burning VC money. I just don't know how this ages. Because the thing is, I'm old enough. Like, I saw EOS. I put money into EOS. And by the way, funny story. I was on a bus from Poland to whatever the fuck it's at the north, like the Baltic states. And I was doing my migration on the bus, and something went wrong. I lost the keys. The EOS investment, which is probably zero anyway, it's gone. I saw EOS and all the fat around it. I saw, what's the other shitty one on the top 10?
I'm trying to find the banner that says not financial advice, but I can't find it.
Yeah. I mean, this is not financial advice, it's financial history about how I'm still poor after so long. What's the other one with the professor's founder, the Cardano piece of shit? Like, I've seen these projects, and I guess that I feel it more personally because I'm on the marketing side. I can see how 3 people with colored, half-shaved hair can cook up an amazing narrative. You send one founder with mild charisma, they'll raise 100 million. I just haven't seen the devs cheap that much. And I haven't seen products. That's why I like Deer. Hey, we take our time, and we may be actually halfway there on the narratives, but I see them shape shit. And that's why now I'm trying to reconcile, especially with the redacted hackathon coming up. Where do we, like, you get a talented founder, a talented developer. Where would you nudge them? I would never push people in a direction where they were not going to go naturally. Like, there is something that is better for people always. But at some point, we're going to sell our shit, right? Like, hey, do you want to go deploy a layer 19? Or have you considered, you could just deploy natively. We can save you 19,000 bridges and socks and cakes and all this shit. Sure, at some point, signatures are superpowers. And I'm super excited to explore what they can do. But yeah, I'd like to see more things really push the boundaries of what can be done natively.
Yeah, I think this is the thing. It's like, hey, I'm going to connect near up to my existing application on whatever chain it's deployed on. And I feel like this is sort of what was happening with Boss as well. Hey, I'm going to introduce my application, a Boss front end for my application that lives on some EVM, right? But then we're thinking, yeah, why don't I just bring the application onto Near and remove that complexity step? And it's not like if you bring your application onto Near, then it's going to slow the network because, well, we have sharding here. So I'm in two minds of, do we abstract everything and you interact with all these different chains, or do you have a chain that can just scale infinitely like we have? But I think it's probably the former because, well, like we say, different chains are good for different things, and you might not be able to provide your developers what they want on just one single chain or one single infrastructure.
I mean, my experience, very brief experience, building on EVMs, mostly hackathons, is it doesn't really matter if your technology is like not perfect. It just matters that you throw everything at it so that people can do the best that they can. I use ETH scaffold, amazing. Cookbook.dev, you can fork a ton of libraries, a ton of projects, there's an NLM right there, so you can say, hey, I want to fork that and add this. Like, there's been a lot of work into making it easy for the people building new stuff. And I think that, we're very, very young ecosystem. And I think that correctly we've been tackling the bigger items first. AI, huge. No one distracts people working on that. Chain signatures, huge, great accomplishment. But I wonder whether, I'll put it as a question. How much work do we still have to do in enabling people that want to build natively to have that, excellent UX, or to get started as simply as possible? I think I told you, I'm sort of working on this small community. It's very small. It's literally just me right now, but I'll add you in a minute. And yeah, I just want to have a place. Yeah, give me my first. I want to have that place where, we have every single hackathon submission, till now. All these little silly projects that Vadim, Eugene, Matlock, Yurja, they just spin out shit on a weekend. It's kind of cool, half documented on Twitter, and they move on. Every single one of those little projects have so much potential that I want to be like, hey, we're going to have a repository, and every single 19-year-old university student, like the ones that I hacked with in Brussels, these are perfect weekend projects for them. And if everything is open source, every single person that comes to Near, they can use them to learn. They're kind of fun. You can have your own iteration. That's the kind of thing that I want to see. And yeah, that's my rant.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff, and a lot of it hasn't been built yet. So I think That's a great place to end. We've sort of gone over here, but builders build.
40 minutes, dude. This is warm up for me. I'm fucking go.
Well, it's 6 p.m. for me, so it's bedtime soon. But yeah, I think
Remote
we went a
location.
little abstract there, and sort of moved away from the chain abstraction topic, and we went.
I went against it actually. I'm sorry. I was.
Well, I think we went quite theoretical.
Quite meta,
So
yeah.
I think for the developers, keep it simple to start with. Think of something cool or take some idea that someone else has put out already. Like Ilya has put out 10 ideas of how chain signatures can be used on near, like not in a chain abstraction way, but using chain signatures on near. And there's some really cool things that can be built there. So if you're a dev and thinking, hey, what can I build? Maybe hit up AVB or steal one of these ideas from Ilya or from the chain abstraction group or from wherever. It's an open source community. And I think a lot of us don't care about wanting to earn money off this project and gatekeeping it. I think a lot of us just want to see it be built and grow. So yeah, that would be my final thought. What about you, AVB? Anything to end on?
Beautifully put. No, I'm with you. I think that we're going from the tutorials to the massive multi-million user projects. I think there's so much that could be built in the middle at the moment. I'm just keen to be surrounded by people that want to learn and experiment. There's no shortage of ideas. I call them silly little experiments that can help you really get to know and master the near tech stack and have some fun, meet other people. Who knows? Maybe you could make a couple bucks, pump that fun, nothing serious. It's one of the best performing apps out there. So it doesn't have to be all, serious business. And yeah, I'm excited to see how this evolves. Redacted is on. It's going to be 8 weeks offline, so plenty of time to meet your teammates. I'm out and about. I'm looking. I'm available. Brainstorm ideas, validate, iterate. It should be pretty exciting to see what people come up with. And yeah,
I think there's going to be a lot of hacking and a lot of learning over those 8 weeks, and it's going to be really interesting. Okay, that's a wrap.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, and see you around, and see you at Redacted. Right, I've got to figure out how to stop the show now.
If you're still alive, Jesus, online, Chiang Mai, 1st to the 31st of October, we will be there in person. There may be a house, more details coming soon. But if you need to book flights, October in Chiang Mai is going to be a nice environment to hack collectively.
Go see the elephants as well.
Sure.
Okay, and see you next week. Goodbye.
Do you know how to